Here.
Millie.
All right, this is Jasper. Millie is right here. Here she is. Jasper, come. All right, this is their roadmap to success. Now, these are German Shorthair Pointers, which I refer to as a professional breed of dog. They need a lot of exercise. Now, luckily, she's 4. He's about 6. Is that right? 8. And so he's kind of entering a stage in his life where he's not so gung-ho, and she's doing the same thing. Now, she really likes manipulating her humans to go in or out the door, so we spent some time on that, and it's going to be important that we don't get up and go over and let them out when they whine at the door, because the whining, if the dog whines and we give in and give it something, it's going to whine even more. So we're really rewarding the dog for doing the thing we don't want them to do. All right, so we started off the session by talking about rules because the dogs don't have any rules. So some of the rules we went over. Rule number 1, not being allowed on the furniture for at least 30 days or as long as the problem is still going on. If the dog gets on the furniture without permission, we say off once, right away. If they don't, then we put our hand behind their butt, push them firmly to the edge, but not all the way off so the dog feels like it's about to fall. Wait for the dog to jump off on its own, then we pet it and say off. So we're creating a positive association. When you take the dog's height away, it is a bit of a demotion. So giving them some sort of reward afterwards can really help. At the end of 30 days or however long the period is, then the dogs are going to be allowed to be on the furniture only with an invitation and only for good behavior. So if I'm invited up and then I start barking, I have to get down immediately. And when you get them down, make sure you're kind of firm with it. We don't want to be abusive, obviously. But if you're too soft, you're like, oh. The dog's like, she doesn't really want me to get off, so I'll just stay up. So we want to make sure they understand that you're serious. So be very assertive when you communicate with them. Not that you're angry, but we don't want to repeat a command. The more we repeat a command, the less we mean it. So another rule is the door, which we just got done practicing. So if we go to the door and I tell the dog to sit, the dog has to sit before we let it in or out. If the dog doesn't sit, I walk away from the door for 1 minute. And then I go back and I give it one more opportunity to sit, just saying it one time. If the dog doesn't sit, then I walk away for 2 minutes, next time for 4 minutes, next time for 8 minutes. Well, eventually, when one of the dogs sits, as soon as that butt hits the ground, I open the door and let that dog out. If only one of the dogs sits, only one of the dogs is allowed to go out, the other dog has to stay inside. And we keep on doubling the length of time. Don't stand near the door and don't be standing. Sit down, pull out your phone, watch the TV, read a magazine article. Millie just laid down 5 feet away from the trash can. That's awesome. On her own. So the more that we teach them this, eventually they're going to learn the only way I can get in and out the door is sitting at it. Right now, these dogs paw at the door. We have a handle that kind of goes like that. The dogs will figure out how to open it. So in the interim, while we're doing this, we don't want the dog to be rewarded for that jumping behavior. So it's important we lock the deadbolt. I would suggest you put a post-it note there so everyone remembers we always lock the deadbolt. Once the dog realizes that pawing at the door no longer opens it, they're going to start looking for a new behavior. And as soon as they sit, the door opens. Well, they're going to go start sitting at the door as their way of saying, I want to go outside. Other rules would be to teach the dog to wait on the stairs. Whoever goes in front is considered the leader. This includes going into a room, going up and down a flight of stairs, going through a hallway, going out the door. So I didn't have time to go through it in this session, but I have videos on my website. You can go to doggonproblems.com and click on dog training tips. There's a search box on the right side of the page. You can type in stairs, and a session write-up that I've done for other clients where I have a video specifically teach how to teach your dog to stay at the top or bottom of the stairs is up there. And so you can review that. I would give the dogs, right now the dog's release word is okay, which is a top 50 commonly used word in the English language. And I know of dogs actually that have passed away because they're on a leash, they're on a walk, they're waiting on Lincoln's Boulevard or Dodge Street and wait for traffic to go. And one of the persons says to the other one something that says okay, and the dog jumps up and gets clipped by a car. So make it release, break, freedom. When I have multiple dogs, I like each dog to have its own unique word for release. So that way I can release the dogs independently. That's one of the things I like the guardians to do. Once we get the dogs to sit at the door, the next thing to do is you can search for, carefully your finger, search for door. And I'll have a bunch of door exercises, but teaching dog to wait at the door is what you're looking for. We want to teach the dog and use delayed gratification to help the dogs develop more self-control and discipline. And so the idea for that is we go to the door and open that door, and the dogs are not allowed to go out the door until they get a release word. And again, each dog should have its own release command word. That way I can say, Millie, release, and release only means something to Millie. Now the way that I assign these words is like every time Millie goes to the door, I might say release. When she sits and I open the door, she's walking through it, I say the word release as she's getting the action of going outside. But when I say it for the other dog, I say a different command word. So Millie only, release only means something to Millie because she's the only one who hears it when she's going through the door. When the other dog hears it, I'm sitting, I'm lying down, I'm coming around, I'm doing whatever, so it doesn't mean anything to me. The 2 times that I actually have unique command words for specific for each dog is the release word, number 1, and the feeding word, number 2. The feeding word I assign by simply I wait for the dog to take the first bite, and I say feast, chow, grub, whatever the word is when the dog takes that first bite. That dog hears it with food in its mouth. The other dog hears it with no food in their mouth, so it doesn't mean anything to them. Dogs spend 90% of the time in the wild looking for food, so it's a very primally important activity. When the dogs kill or catch something or find something, they eat in the order of their rank. So we have 2 dogs here. The person who I guess I ruined it, but I usually ask my clients who should eat first. Like, oh, him or him? No, it's the human should eat first. So the human just needs to eat a bite, maybe 5 or more bites of something. 5 pieces of popcorn, a piece of celery, and 5 bites, whatever it is. Then once we've done that, then I would feed Jasper first because he's the older dog. And while he's eating, Millie is not allowed to be within 7 feet of him. So that way Jasper sees that we're controlling and protecting his food, and Millie sees that we're doing the same thing for her. So this way the dogs are not allowed to be near each other when they're eating food. That just provides a little bit more structure. It's something we're going to do every day for our dogs anyway, so if we just get in the habit of doing this, we won't even think about it. But every time we do this, this is a mini dog obedience training session. Let me see, another rule would be the dogs are not allowed to be within 7 feet of the humans. So we have a little couch area here, 2 couches, and I kind of drew an imaginary line here around the table. And so if anybody is in this area eating, the dogs are not allowed in this zone. And once people are done eating, the dogs can come and go as they please. Now the guardians may want to put tape on the floor temporarily just to see exactly where that line is and help the dog practice. And practice makes perfect. So I would have the girls taking their snack here every day. So that gives mom the opportunity, or dad, the opportunity to practice enforcing this boundary. Occasionally eating a meal here, I understand we'd probably rather eat at the table, that's fine, but every once in a while if we get pizza or something more relaxed, we want to have guests come over and be eating a snack or an hors d'oeuvre over here and have the dogs on their own stay behind. And the more that the dogs develop discipline to stay behind lines on their own without being corrected, the more self-control they have, which is going to help them in a lot of different capacities. Both of them are a little insecure. Millie is considerably more insecure than he is. And so the more that we can build up her confidence by having more structure in her life. A lot of times we have a dog that's insecure or a rescue dog, we feel, well, I'm going to make up for what happened before by having all rules and structure removed. That is overwhelming for the dog. And most dogs that have behavior problems are insecure and have problems in that realm. So the more that we can build up her confidence by enforcing rules consistently on a regular basis and within that 3-second window. Remember, you either have 3 seconds to reward your dog or correct your dog for them to make the connection as to why they're being rewarded or corrected. Whenever you're giving a treat, the treat goes in the dog's mouth first, immediately followed by the command word. If the dog is eating a tasty treat, it's getting a pleasurable sensation. If they hear the command word directly after, that makes the command word even more enticing to the dog. And also it helps with their understanding. Let me see. We talked about M&Ms for the kids. So I like to use positive reinforcement to get kids. When we have little kids, usually those that are under their teenage years, where what I do is I have each kid has a jug or a mug or a glass with their name on it, go to a crafts fair and have them decorated. Then every time one of the kids pets with a purpose, or passively trains the dog, or makes the dog sit at the door, or any of those things, we get an M&M or a Skittle and we put it in that kid's jar. If the kid starts petting without a purpose, we might take the M&M out and say, oh, I have to take this away. Would you like to earn it back? And yeah, they tell the dog to sit, they pet it, and they put it back in the jar. Now, when I tell the dog what to do, for passive training, well, I'll start with petting with a purpose first. Petting a dog is our way of paying them. For little kids, I say petting a dog is our way of saying thank you. So we want to say thank you after the dog does something, not before it. So if the dog comes and nudges us like this, and I pet the dog, then the dog told me what to do, and then it feels responsible for me. So instead, if I want to pet her, if she nudges me, I would say sit, sit. I want to pet under the chin to keep that nose up. That's what a good proud dog has, that orientation. You saw this motion. I pretend like I have a treat in my hand. I actually do this time. And I go over their head. As soon as they lower it, I sit. As soon as they sit, I lower my hand. I let them lick it off my hand. Once it goes in their mouth, I say the word sit, and then I tickle them under their chin to facilitate that nose up orientation. Passive training. Well, so we're not going to pet the dogs when they paw at us at all, or nudge us or scratch at us. Another rule, because they're not allowed in the furniture, we shouldn't have as much pawing as we have now. But the other thing is the dogs like to put their paw on us when we're petting them. As soon as the dog puts his paw up, immediately stop petting. Don't yell, don't correct. The consequences, as soon as you do that, I stop petting you. I'll show you with her. Right, because you like to be petted. And as soon as I stop, you're going to paw at me. Sit. Sit. So I can wait for her to stop and then pet her again, or if I reach over to pet her and she starts putting her paw up, I pull back, scratch. So I might pull my hand back several times until she puts the paw on the floor, and then as soon as she does, the timing has to be precise. And I would not practice the shake for the intern because the dogs jump up a lot and they're doing this, and it's just inappropriate for the dogs to do. If they want to do it with each other, it's okay. All right, let me see. So I showed the kids how to practice a come command. Make sure we're doing this. Your hand is at a 45-degree angle. I'm only doing it to the side so you can see it. It should be facing the dogs. But this, as you can see, looks like I have something in my hand. I'll give you a reward for that. Sit. So if we always deliver a treat like this, then when those times we don't have a treat, we go like this. We have the dog's full attention, and it's going to be easier to manipulate them. So I would have people, and this is another video. You can go to doggoneproblems.com and search for come. But basically, I just had the kids sitting here, showed them how to do it. We say come once. If the dog doesn't come, then we make a kissing sound like when it looks at us, we start lowering our hand, and I curl my finger as I go down. And go all the way to the floor if you have to. Once they start coming to you, then I raise it over their head to put them in a sit. After a while, they're just going to come and sit in front of you, so you won't have to raise it or lower it. But if you say come, 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 then you're just watering down the word. But before you do it, have your hand out like this. Don't say come and have the dog look at you and you're doing this. Be ready for them. And then when they come, put them in a sit and then reward them, but say come, not sit. We just expect to sit. At first we're going to do it in the living room, then we're going to have one person sitting in the dining room and somebody sitting in the stairs, and eventually somebody upstairs, downstairs. We can get the dogs to come anywhere in the house, then we're going to move outside and do it on the deck. We're going to shrink the circle. At least 3 people should be practicing the stay. Otherwise the dog just goes back and forth. And we're going to go to a smaller circle and practice it, and then we're going to make it a little bit bigger, and eventually we can have the dog running from one side of the yard to the other. Now when we're practicing this, if you're holding like this and the dog jumps up, bend your elbow away like that as your way of saying no. As soon as they sit down, then give them the treat. Let me see. One of the dogs, Millie here, doesn't like always to come inside because she's having a good time playing. So one of the things I told the guardian to do is to basically train her to come to me is a good thing outside. So in this capacity, I'd let her go outside, have a good 15 minutes of fun, or whatever period of time. Go outside with the treat, go about 10 feet outside the door. Ask her to come. This is after you've practiced the come, so she should come right away. Comes, give her the treat, and then you go back inside and she gets to go play. Next time you go out, you go to 9 feet, then 8 feet, then 7 feet. So it's just one step closer to the house. Eventually you get to the door, you just open the door and say, come, and she runs up to you. And then what I would do is give her the treat and let her go back and play. The next time when she comes, I would give her the one treat and then show her I had a second one and toss it in the house. When I toss it in the house, then I would come up with a command word that means go inside, like inside or house. And then I don't say that until she touches it with her lips. So I toss it inside, she's going to run in to get it. When she gets it, I say the word house after she's touched her lips. Then I'm going to let her leave and go back outside because I want her to understand that when I call you, it doesn't represent the end of fun time. It just means come to me and get a treat. So first we do it step by step until she comes. Then we teach her to come in the house. And then eventually sometimes we can say house and the dog comes inside and we close the door. We don't let him go back out because it's nighttime or whatever it is. But this way we're teaching the dog that there's a reward for doing it. This is the benefit of positive dog training. Let me see. Other rules that we can incorporate. Oh, another rule would be not to be, the dogs are not allowed in the kitchen. Now, I talked to the guardian about how I actually solve dog problems, kind of went through the formula that I use. But basically it's recreating the situation at lower intensity. I think I talked about in one of the videos actually. And basically recreating the situation, but playing with the elements. So if we have dogs snatching food off plates when we have a cocktail party, we might invite a friend over. Thank you, Millie. We might have a friend come over and microwave a piece of roast beef and cut it up and put it in the little plates we're going to use during our dinner party. But we have 2 friends over, we just put them on the plates, and now we're watching the dogs, and we're going to use the same technique we use in the trash can. We're going to hiss if the dog approaches. And we're going to train the dogs that when food's out, one of the rules is you stay away from this couch, but also you don't take the food off the plate. Just like us when we're playing baseball, we take a practice swing first. Well, if we're going to have people come over for a cocktail party, we can have the dogs practice by a couple times that week before the party, simulating the party, having the same plates, having a couple of people maybe are coming to the party if we can, but it's instead of being the host where you're distracted, you're able to focus on the dogs and teach them the behavior you want them to display and practice them and reward them for doing it. After you've done that enough, they become on autopilot. You can do this for answering the door, another great video I have a lot of examples of on my website. I usually call that door exercise. Teaching the dogs to stay 10 feet away from the door behind an invisible line. And because the dogs are doing it themselves, they develop more self-control. Let me see, what else? So the M&Ms will be really helpful because we have 2 kids that really want to engage with the dogs. Now the kids are helping by having the dogs do things that we want them to do over and over again. And dogs learn through repetition, consistency, and good timing. Well, now we have the kids helping us out with all 3. All right, watchwords. I like to use watchwords for various things. So petting with a purpose, and for him, for his marking, which is a big problem, sit, crash. All right, so for him, I would like no one in the family to pet him anymore. People at home are going, oh, what a mean guy, unless he does something to earn it. He is marking all over the house trying to assert himself or claim the house. It's because he has a perception that he is an authority figure. The more that we enforce the rules, the more we help with that. But I read a number of case studies with dogs that mark, and one of them was a husky that would have real difficulty not marking. The only way they finally were able to achieve it is by having a lot of rules and structure, but no one was allowed to pet the dog unless the dog earned it by sitting, coming, or laying down. And so that's what I'd like to make sure that we're doing for him. So we come in the room and we see mom is petting Jasper. Says to say Jester. Jester. I'm still saying it. So she's petting him and we say paycheck, and mom throws her hands up in the air and she says sit, and we sit. She pets him under his chin, said the word sit, and she says, I asked him to sit before he came in the room, and David said that's okay, as long as if he can stand up, I can still pet him. You can pet him for hours after that. You just have to change his state first. Now, after a while, with the petting with purpose, he's going to learn to command. He's going to come sit in front of you and say, hey, sucker, I'm sitting down, you should be petting me. And we want to do that as much as possible. That's what I call passive training. So every time the dog comes to us, we're going to pet it and say, come. We're definitely not going to bite my pocket, though. Every time she sits down, like she did, I petted her and I said, sit. When she laid down, I said, crash. I wait for the dog. For passive training, you're waiting for the dog to do the thing on its own, and you're just simply recognizing that. The watchword I usually use for this is just reward. So if somebody says reward to you, you look at the dog, and whatever the dog happens to be doing, sit. Just you have a window of 3 seconds, so take the person's word for it. The dog is just standing there, then you assume that they come, and you pet them and say come. But the more you do this and you reward the desired action and behavior, the more they're wanting to do those behaviors in the future. Just like when our kids get an A, we put a big star on the board. We put the report card on the bulletin board. We want to let them know that we really, really like what happened, and we want them to do it again. The more we do these things with the dogs, the more the dogs start developing or engaging in desired actions and behaviors, because that's what gets the human's attention. Whining doesn't work anymore. Jumping up on them doesn't work anymore. Nudging them doesn't work anymore. They love it when I sit. Other watchwords that we want to go over, rerun. Most humans, most Americans I should say, have 10 command words for every command action. Come here, over here, here boy, whistle, tap my thigh, click my tongue, dog nickname, and another random name. Now the dog has to learn 9 or 10 things, and most dogs know 10 command words. So that's a vocabulary of 100 words they have to listen for. Americans typically say between 3,000 and 11,000 words a day. Carefully fingered. Your finger, I think, is, there you go. And so suddenly the dogs, who are not verbal creatures, have to pick out a word out of the thin air. The fewer words we use, the easier it is for them. So if we see somebody saying the wrong word, we might say vocabulary. And so that person says, come, or crash, or whatever the word is that we want to use. Let me see, what are the other watchwords we want to use? Paycheck, rerun is repeating the command word over and over again. Diction or dictionary is you're using the wrong word. And then reward is just your passive training, petting the dog for crash or sit or come or whatever it is. There's also a video for kennel training. Because we have dogs having accidents in the house, we might need to do some kennel training at least overnight. A dog will get stressed out if it's in the kennel for longer than 5 hours, so you want to eliminate that because that's not probably something that humans are going to be able to do during the day. Maybe just doing that at night and making sure we don't have any accidents happening at night will help. I did some remedial potty training with the Guardians, another video you can find on doggoneproblems.com. Coming up with a new command word, and also teaching your dog to potty in a specific place is something I went over, and that might be something that they want to do. The guardians used to teach the dog to ring a bell, but they made the cardinal mistake that most people do is they hung the bell from the doorknob, which teaches the dog that the bell ringing means the door opens, not having anything to do with potty. So if you go to my website and search for bell, you should get potty training, a video or a write-up comes up that has a video that explains how you can train your dog to ring a bell to tell you it has to go potty. Let me see, what else do we have here? Kennel and whining. So I think we covered most of it. The video that I have above with the trash can, the guardians can use the same technique for kids' toys, which is something that she likes to get into. I think I see why, because I think the guardians were giving the dog some human things that they were no longer using, like I saw a roll of tape, a roll from paper towels. Even though that's not something we care about, it's hard for dogs to tell the difference between that and a roll of fabric or something else that they might want to chew on. So we wouldn't want to give our kids used to chewing on anthrax flavored Bubblicious, which is why we don't have that. So for the dogs, don't give them empty water bottles or any human things that they shouldn't have. What we do want to do is if this is not a dog toy, I would get up right now, but my legs are completely numb right now. But we put it on the ground and we do the same thing we did with the trash can. We stand over it, we create a perimeter, the dog's not allowed to go near it, and then when the dog actually does go near it, we hiss and we stand up, use the escalated consequences to move the dog away. And then once the dog lays down, we can go over and give it a treat and say ignore or whatever the word is like we did in the video. Practice that as much as you can. The more you practice it, the better. And for dogs, typically if you practice on a regular basis, meaning every day, at least once or twice a day, you'll make faster progress. I'm sure I'm probably forgetting some other things. Oh, if we're gonna have a cocktail party or something like that, taking the dogs to doggy daycare is a great way to set them up for success, because if they are there for 8 hours, dogs sleep 6 hours or are awake for 6 hours a day. So if we take them to doggy daycare and they're there for 8 hours, when they come home, this is the energy you're going to have. Your guests are going to say, your dogs are so well behaved. And you're like, yes, we hired doggone problems. But no, we're just putting them in a position to succeed. So if there's something that's going to be going on, the kids are going to have a sleepover or something, that's a great time to take them to doggy daycare. Socialization practice will be very helpful for them as well. But also putting them in a position to succeed is something I find a lot of people fail to do for their dogs. And it goes a long way. Now, while we're training them, we're working on new rules and structure to help flip the leader-follower dynamic. The guardians may want to consider taking them to daycare during the day, so we don't have to worry about the kenneling issue, kenneling longer than 5 hours, and they don't have the ability to urinate in the house. We want to extinguish that behavior, and in order to do that, we have to prevent them from being able to do it for at least 30 days. So if maybe we try to do that for a month, I like Dogtopia, but there's a lot of different doggy daycares. Just make sure the place screens the dogs first. They should take your dog away from you, put it with dogs that they know, and see how it behaves. If they don't do that, then other dogs there might be beating up on your dogs, and we don't want your dogs to have a negative experience. We want it to be positive. Most good reputable places are going to do that for you automatically, but just ask them if they do any screening, if they don't talk to you about doing it automatically. Some places will just do it on their own, won't tell you, and if they fail, they just put your dog separate from the other dogs. But you want, and these dogs, they're not high energy because they're past their adolescent stage, but getting them in a different environment will help with the potty training, with the stopping the marking. I don't think she's marking, I think she's just going where she smells that he goes, but it's a cascading thing, it's not any fun. All right, this is
Jasper.
Jasper and Millie's roadmap to success. I see you over there, buddy. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.